Okay, so if you can't tell from the title of this video is going to have major spoilers for basically the whole of Endgame. So if you haven't seen the film yet, I suggest you click off the video now. Just give people a moment to do that. Okay, questions. If Steve went back in time and just had his life with Peggy Carter, he would have done had he, not sort of been assumed dead and frozen in ice. Does that mean the events of Agent Carter never happened? And does that mean Steve is now Sharon Carter's great uncle? Because they kissed in Civil War. Just as a random anecdote for you, when Falcon looked across and saw the old man, Steve Rogers, sitting there, somebody in the theatre that I was watching it in actually said, is this going to be Stan Lee? The time travel logic in this film seems very similar to Back to the Future, which is weird because Scott Lang actually says at one point Back to the Future is bullshit. If the Thanos from 2014 has now travelled to the future and has been dusted, how exactly can the events of Infinity War have happened? Is this Black Widow film really going to have the same kind of impact now that we know how her story ends? Why does the film open the way it does if Hawkeye doesn't actually end up dying? Wouldn't that scene have had a lot more impact if that was actually the last time he saw his family? Is Thor just only able to kill Thanos now because he's been weakened from using the stones twice? Or is that just a way to illustrate that had he gone for the head originally at the end of Infinity War, he would have actually been able to kill him? How's humanity going to adjust now to the fact that half of the population have been living their lives for the last 5 years trying to readjust to, half the population having been dusted, and now suddenly the other half of the population has come back, having skipped over 5 years? When is Guardians Volume 3 coming out? I just seriously cannot wait for that now. And on a similar note, why couldn't Star-Lord have survived the snap? I just really missed him in this film. Why at one point during the battle were just all the women all together, helping out Captain Marvel? How awesome was Professor Hulk? Why couldn't Bruce's snap bring back Black Widow? I mean, he actually says at one point, I tried to bring her back, and he never actually explains why he wasn't able to do it. Why is Scott the one to say, I think it worked? Are a few birds in a tree really a good indication that half of humanity's lives have been restored? As opposed to, Clint's wife, that we know for a fact was dusted, actually ringing him on the phone. Isn't that a far better indication that it's worked? When Rhodey suggests that they just kill Thanos as a baby, they kind of yada that, time travel doesn't work like that. But to me, the bigger question I would have had about that as a solution is, wouldn't that erase Tony's daughter from existence? Was that rat that freed Ant-Man a little bit too convenient? I mean, it did take 5 years for it to happen, but, I don't know. Who the hell does put mayo on a hot dog? Where was Everett K. Ross during this whole thing? I mean, we're not even told if he survived the snap or not. When Doctor Strange was looking at all the other possible outcomes and only one where they win, did he just see Thanos acquiring the Time Stone in some other way? Which was the funnier line? Was it, that's America's ours? Or, I could do this all day? I know. I honestly just can't decide. So the Iron Man gauntlet was obviously something Tony had custom made for that specific purpose. But then at the end of the film, we also see that the regular Iron Man glove that he has on his suit can also wield the stones. I mean, is his Iron Man tech really just that powerful now that it can wield the Infinity Stones? Why are so many people complaining about the slow start to this movie? I mean, it is a 3-hour movie, for God's sake. Is it not possible they could just travel back in time and just pull Tony and Natalie out of some alternate reality and bring them to the present? Why is Scott so surprised that he's believed to be dead? I mean, he's been gone for 5 years. How exactly did Steve return the Soul Stone? Also, that had to be an awkward meeting with Red Skull. Did Star-Lord actually get the Power Stone in the alternate reality that they travel back to, considering Nebula actually knocks him out? Nebula kills her past self. I mean, honestly, guys, how does that make any sense at all? And yes, I have heard all of these different sort of theories about the fact that it's not actually them travelling back in time across their own timeline, they're travelling to some alternate reality, and when they travel back to the present, they're travelling back to their own reality where no time travel has taken place, I guess. The only problem with that is we see old man Steve Rogers at the end in the original timeline, even though he's, travel back to this alternate timeline. And the biggest question of all, how come it was so good? I mean, I didn't love it or anything. In fact, I actually still prefer Infinity War, but yeah, top-notch film, I thought.